Hello, and thanks for riding with me today. On our last trip, I mentioned a scenario, or kind of told a story per se, about a relationship where the third wheel was depression. Depression was always present in their relationship, and it caused certain issues. You can watch it, number 4, it'll tell you all about it. Anywho, turns out that a lot of you have gotten in touch with me and contacted me, and you want me, I said I would, and you want me to actually talk more about depression. You want to know the hows and whys. Some of you are like, what do I know about depression? Because, some of you met me and you're like, you're Mr. Happy. You're always smiling. You're always positive. You're always looking at the bright side. You seem like you've led a charmed life. What do you know about depression? So before I begin talking about it, I guess I need to kind of lay out my credentials for depression. Sounds goofy, but I understand. I do suffer from depression, I guess I should say to begin. And when I was younger, and I did try to seek help for it, it was, I don't know if it was early in the field or what, but the specialist I had who was trying to help me with my depression didn't believe I was depressed because I had a roof over my head, I had a good family, I wasn't being overly abused, not overly abused, so pretty much if I was suffering depression and I wanted to stop being depressed, I should just stop being depressed. So I can understand where, some of you may think I'm not qualified to talk about depression, but I do suffer from depression. I suffer from serious depression. It's been a part of my life for a long time, and I was kind of like in the closet with it. Here I am now, but in the past I haven't really said anything and told people about my depression because so many people misunderstand it. And people label you when you have depression. They think you're just lazy, or you're just good for nothing, or you just using an excuse not to do certain things or interact in certain ways. And so to admit you were depressed was like admitting you were a homosexual back in the day. It's something you just didn't do. You tried to keep it under wraps. So in my family, where I'm sure there's got to be someone in my immediate family who suffers from depression, I didn't know of anyone. And when my depression came out to my parents, to my father, he didn't understand it at all. He actually took it as a personal affront. Like, haven't I fed you? Haven't I clothed you? Haven't I educated you? Haven't I put a roof over your head? Haven't I done these things? How and why could you ever be depressed? You've got it made. So, I just had to kind of do the best I could to either hide it or keep it under wraps, or like I said, stay in the closet. But my depression was so bad, so debilitating, that it caused physical pain. I would actually get migraines. I would get muscle aches and joint pains, and I know you say, well, maybe it's just all in my head. Maybe it was, but even me saying, okay, it's just all in my head, I'm just down right now, I'm not really hurting, you know what, that just doesn't work. there's times when I would go 2 or 3 months when I wouldn't leave my home, or very little. You know, I may stay in the house in one room for 2 or 3 months. That's why I love the bathroom, because I've spent so much time in the bathroom. You know, I would sit in the bathtub without water for days. You know, get out, use the restroom, get right back in the bathtub. If you get thirsty, you know, turn on the spigot and lean over, cup your hands, get some water. You know, I may go 4 or 5 days without eating, just sitting in the bathtub in a state of depression. You know, I've always been self-employed, so I normally have my side work or my work, and I normally get a corporate job or a job through a business or something else. So I know I've almost always worked 2 jobs. My current job, you know, you guys have seen me where I work at night. My corporate job is actually the longest period of time I've been employed with an actual corporate business or entity, because my depression normally kicks in, and like I said, I may not come in the house for, you know, months, and so of course you can't keep a job if you're in the house for a month or 2 or 3. So it's really been a journey. You know, it's been a challenge at times, coping and living with depression. I mean, my wife gets concerned when I get down, because there are times, even if I'm pretending to be happy, pretending to be all that, she knows. And she gets concerned when I get down, because there's times when I'm so depressed that I literally stop breathing. In my sleep, I stop breathing. I'm just that far down. I'm that far gone. And so, like I said, this is the longest period that I've been able to go without having an extreme episode of depression. And I've done it without being medicated. I've tried that route, it didn't work for me. I've taught myself and educated myself to myself over the years, to where I've learned to cope and deal and maintain without medication. So when I say something about depression, I am coming from experience. I'm not just some person who read up on it. Now I got some PhD in it, and I've never ever felt it, never experienced it. So you've got all guys, if you suffer from depression, you've met those people. They're full of book knowledge, but they've never been there, so they just don't understand. I understand. I understand that the fight that you have to go through every second of every day, trying so hard to stay afloat. The pain and anguish of feeling all along in your battle with depression. The physical aches and pains, the mental pains, the lack of any kind of quality of life. Oh yeah, I understand. Believe me. I know exactly where you're coming from. So, if there's something I can say to you, some life hack or some experience of mine that can help you either come out even 1 minute sooner, or delay you from going 1 minute from going into depression, then it's worth it for me to, I guess, come out of the closet. I don't want to be labeled as a depressed person, but I am a depressed person. But hey, we're going to do some videos on it. We're going to make some trips. We're going to talk about this thing. It's going to be, I'm probably going to have to come up with some, I'm a very private person. I'm probably going to have to come out with some very intimate things that I don't normally share, so that, you know, something I've gone through can help one of you guys, even like I said, even if it's for a minute or a day, then it's worth it. It's really worth it. So in the coming trips, we're going to talk about what I call triggers. And those are those things that, you know, trigger your depression or push you into a state or tip you over the edge. And sometimes there's actually things that happen. Sometimes you just wake up that way. But sometimes you can be accelerated or pushed into your depression. I know. Trust me. Like I said, I've been there. And I call those triggers. And you have your sustainers. Now, those sustainers can be good and bad, and we'll explore them. Sustainers can either keep you in your depression and sustain you in it, or they can sustain you in your times when you're up. They can sustain you in your normal times, in your good times. So the sustainers can be good or bad. They can be things that keep you down or things that keep you up. And then I have what I call maintainers, which is those things that help you to stay up. These things help me stay up. They can't be switched out. It's not something that ever causes me to moves into the realm of a sustainer or moves into a trigger. It's something that always keeps you up, and I call those your maintainers. So I'll explore those, what work for me, what those are to me, and maybe they'll, you know, be some resonance with you. Maybe there'll be something that resonates with you, and you'll say, hey, maybe I should try that, or yes, that triggers me, or yes, that sustains me or maintains me. So maybe it'll be a help to you. But the first thing I want you to do, I'm almost to my destination. I know it's a short trip, but the first thing I want you to do is develop or work on your depression resume. And it's not like a resume, it's not very detailed, but it has some points in there that are important. Like, do you know or remember when you first began to suffer from depression? You know? What are there places that you go to when you are depressed? Are there environments that call to you when you are depressed? Are there environments that call to you when you're not? You know, things like this. Get a general broad sense of who your depression is, because it's like a person. Who is your depression? Where does he or she like to go and hang out? What does he or she like to eat? Because what you eat can be a factor in your depression. Hey, like I said, I've been working on this thing for a long time. You know, I'm a few years, I'll be 50, you know, I'm almost a half a century. I've been working on this since I was in single digits. So yes, what you eat matters when you're in a depressed state or about to go over into one, or when you're out. I mean, it just matters. These things matters. So start developing a blueprint of who your depression is. Because when we begin to talk about triggers and sustainers and maintainers, this blueprint, you're going to always be referencing it in your mind. Because it's going to always trigger episodes while we're talking. It's going to, a memory or a thought or feeling. It's going to trigger off of that. So that's what I want you to do. If you're one of those who suffer from depression, and even if you don't suffer, you may not be as bad off as some of the rest of us, but you still may have some minor influences that really is depression. So it's not a bad exercise even if you don't suffer. Or if you don't suffer, it may be good knowledge if you have a relative or friend or a companion or someone you know who is someone who suffers from depression. Maybe you can be a help to them, or maybe it'll help you understand them better so you don't say foolish things to turn them off. And when I say foolish, it's like things, it's nothing worse than being in your depression and someone says, oh, you're just sad. It is so not about being sad at all. being depressed is like having this massive black hole in the center of your being, this giant singularity that just doesn't let anything escape. Not light, not feelings, not emotion, not care. There's just nothing, because it sucks everything in. It's a freaking void. It's just hard to describe unless you've actually been there. So even if you don't suffer, maybe you won't cause more damage to someone you love or someone you care about if you know what they're going through. And maybe they've tried to explain it and they don't have the words. I may not have the words either, but hey, if you love them, it's worth listening just to try to figure out if there's something you can do to help. So at any rate, I'm almost to my destination. I so thank you for joining me on these trips. You know, I love you so much, you guys. Thank you for all your feedback, your correspondence. Hey, it means the world to me. So keep it coming. I appreciate you. And when we ride again, we're going to start digging deep into this thing called depression and see if we can help each other out, so that maybe some of you guys can have long periods without medication, or long periods even with medication, where you can have a better quality of life. I love you. I thank you. And we'll see you next trip.